Hey everyone, I'm on a mission to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I'd love your help to get there. If you're enjoying the content, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button right now and join the family.
Cleveland isn't just losing football games, it's losing its mind. What happened on that field wasn't competition, it was public humiliation disguised as sport. The kind of loss that doesn't just hurt, it scars. And standing in the middle of the wreckage, cool as ever, is head coach Kevin Stefanski, clutching a broken playbook and pretending everything is fine. This wasn't a bad night, it was an implosion. A 5-alarm meltdown that left fans stunned, players broken, and the entire city wondering the same thing. What the hell just happened to the Cleveland Browns? Because what unfolded in Pittsburgh wasn't football. It was a masterclass in dysfunction, denial, and self-sabotage. The offense didn't just stall, it surrendered. And as Cleveland's season teeters on the edge, Stefanski's press conference after the game might go down as one of the most bizarre, tone-deaf performances in NFL history. A man with no answers, armed with nothing but corporate buzzwords and blind faith in a plan that clearly isn't working. But here's where it gets worse. Because this story isn't just about bad coaching or bad football. No, this runs deeper. What if the real reason behind the Browns' collapse isn't about talent or play calling, but pride? What if the one man holding the team back is the same man determined to prove he's right, even if it burns the season to the ground? And in the middle of it all, waiting, watching, and ready, sits Shedeur Sanders, the quarterback the coach refuses to unleash, the one who could save the season, if only he were given the chance. So buckle up, because this isn't just another Browns loss. This is a story about power, ego, and the unraveling of an entire franchise in real time. The truth behind Kevin Stefanski's meltdown isn't what he said at that podium, it's what he didn't. The lights in Pittsburgh shone bright that night. But for Cleveland, they may as well have been a spotlight exposing every flaw, every weakness, and every ounce of false hope this team had been clinging to. From the opening drive, you could feel it. Something was off. The rhythm wasn't there. The energy, gone. And as the minutes ticked by, the Browns didn't just fall apart. They unraveled. It wasn't a football game. It was an execution. Every snap, every missed throw, every blown opportunity felt like another shovel of dirt thrown onto the coffin of Cleveland's season. You could feel the tension in every play, the silence between the boos, the disbelief in the faces of fans who have seen too much heartbreak to still be surprised. And yet somehow, this still managed to hurt worse. By halftime, it wasn't about hope anymore. It was about survival. The offense looked lifeless, the defense exhausted from carrying the weight of a team that refused to fight back. Dylan Gabriel, once introduced as the future of the franchise, looked like a man lost in a maze he built himself. Wide-eyed, uncertain, and completely outmatched. His throws floated like paper airplanes into enemy hands. His pocket awareness vanished like smoke. Every snap felt like a countdown to disaster. The Steelers didn't just outplay the Browns, they toyed with them. Every drive was a reminder of how wide the gap had grown. And when that final whistle blew, it wasn't just the sound of a game ending. It was the sound of mercy. The sound of a city collectively exhaling, not in disappointment, but in disbelief. Fans didn't even yell this time. They didn't rage online or demand heads to roll, not yet. They just stared, silent, numb, because deep down, they already knew what that loss meant. This wasn't a one-off embarrassment. It was a symptom, a sign that something inside the Cleveland Browns is broken. Not just on the field, but at the very core. But that's where the story really begins. Because while the players hung their heads and fans tried to make sense of the nightmare they just watched, Kevin Stefanski stepped up to the podium. And what came next made the game itself look sane by comparison. When Kevin Stefanski walked into that press room, the air was already toxic. The city was seething. The reporters loaded their questions like bullets, and every Browns fan on earth was waiting for one thing: accountability. Just one honest moment, one acknowledgement that this team, this offense, this quarterback experiment was failing. Instead, what they got was a masterclass in denial. He took the podium, straightened his notes, and opened his mouth, and what came out wasn't leadership. It was damage control. A string of hollow corporate buzzwords that landed with all the weight of an empty promise. We'll get it fixed. That's it. That was the line. You could almost feel the collective eye roll from every living room in Ohio. We'll get it fixed. The same meaningless phrase fans have heard for years from coaches who swore they had a plan right before everything collapsed. It wasn't confidence. It was delusion, dressed up to sound like control. Reporters pressed harder. What went wrong with the offense? Why can't this team score? Where's the accountability? And every answer sounded like it came from a script. We just need to execute better. We'll watch the tape. We've got to clean some things up. Each line was like a smoke grenade, blinding, loud, and empty. He listed failures as if he was reading a grocery receipt. No emotion, no urgency, just a coach trying to run out the clock on the truth.
But the real breaking point came when the questions turned to his quarterback, Dylan Gabriel. That's when the mask slipped. Instead of talking about mechanics, reads, or decision-making, Stefanski went straight to one word: toughness. "He's a tough kid," he said. "He kept battling." Battling? After one of the worst offensive showings in recent Browns history? That was the moment the room changed. Because when a coach starts praising effort instead of execution, it means he's run out of answers. It's the football equivalent of giving a kid a gold star for participation. You don't pay NFL quarterbacks to try hard. You pay them to win. It was painfully clear. Stefanski wasn't protecting the team anymore. He was protecting his decision, his pride. Every sentence, every vague cliche was a wall built to defend the one call he refuses to reconsider, keeping Dylan Gabriel under center. And as he doubled down, repeating the same robotic mantras about fixing it and staying the course, something became obvious. He wasn't talking to the media anymore. He was talking to himself, trying to convince himself that the disaster everyone else could see wasn't really happening. The press conference didn't calm anyone down. It lit a fire. Because fans didn't hear a leader, they heard a man in denial. They didn't see a coach with answers. They saw one too afraid to admit he was wrong. And in Cleveland, where hope is fragile and patience is short, that kind of denial doesn't just cost games. It costs trust. But if Stefanski thought the backlash was bad after his press conference, he hadn't seen anything yet. Because the real storm wasn't coming from the media or the fans, it was coming from inside the locker room. If you want to understand why Cleveland is falling apart, you only need to watch one man, Dylan Gabriel. Because what happened in Pittsburgh wasn't just a bad game, it was a meltdown on national television, a clinic in how to dismantle your own offense one missed throw at a time. From the first snap, it was obvious. Gabriel looked rattled. Not pressured, rattled. The game felt too fast, the defense too big, the moment too heavy. Every dropback was a gamble. Every throw looked like guesswork. And the worst part? You could see it on his face. That quiet panic, the kind that tells you he knows it's slipping away. His passes weren't just off target, they were dangerous. Screens thrown into helmets, checkdowns that went nowhere, deep balls that floated like wounded birds before dying in enemy hands. He wasn't reading the defense. He wasn't controlling the offense. He was surviving. Barely. At one point, even the broadcast booth fell silent. There's a special kind of quiet that happens when commentators stop critiquing and start pitying. Every throw was slower, every drive shorter, every hope smaller. By the second half, the Steelers' defense wasn't even disguising coverages anymore. They dared him to throw, and every time, he took the bait. The checkdowns became symbolic, 3-yard tosses on 3rd and 10, the kind of safe, scared decisions that scream, "I don't trust myself." It wasn't strategy, it was surrender. Dylan Gabriel wasn't leading a team, he was holding it hostage.
and Cleveland's championship-caliber defense could only watch helplessly as their efforts were wasted drive after drive. His arm strength, gone. His confidence, shattered. His command of the huddle, non-existent. You could see the receivers start to give up on routes, linemen looking defeated before the snap, frustration boiling over on the sidelines. That's not just poor play, that's decay from within. But the most telling part wasn't even on the field. It was on the sideline. Because as Gabriel stumbled off the turf after yet another failed drive, the cameras caught Shedeur Sanders standing just a few feet away. Calm, focused, helmet on, ready. Like a weapon locked in a glass case labeled "break in case of emergency." Except Stefanski refused to break it. And that's when the frustration turned into fury. Because fans weren't just angry at Gabriel's performance, they were furious at the man keeping him there. Every underthrow, every interception, every wasted drive became a symbol of stubbornness. The whole city could see the solution standing on the sideline, except the man calling the plays. By the end of the night, it wasn't just about a quarterback struggling, it was about a franchise unraveling under one man's pride. Dylan Gabriel wasn't the villain, he was the symptom. The real problem was the man who refused to pull him.
But Stefanski didn't just stand by him, he defended him. And what he said next turned frustration into open revolt. By the time the camera stopped flashing and the microphones hit record, everyone expected Kevin Stefanski to finally face the truth. Dylan Gabriel had just delivered one of the most painful performances in recent Browns history, and the fan base wanted answers. What they got instead was something far more disturbing, a cover-up disguised as coach speak. It started with a familiar phrase, one every Cleveland fan could recite in their sleep. "We'll get it fixed." Those 4 words are the national anthem of denial. They mean nothing. They promise nothing. They're the verbal version of duct tape over a sinking ship. And as Stefanski repeated them with the same calm, robotic cadence he's used for weeks, the fans watching at home knew exactly what it meant. Nothing was changing. Reporters tried to corner him with real questions. Why stick with Dylan Gabriel? Why does this offense look worse every week? When will we see Shadur Sanders? But instead of clarity, they got fog. We've got to execute better. We'll look at all things. Everyone's got to do their job. Translation: don't expect accountability. It wasn't a press conference, it was a performance. A carefully rehearsed illusion meant to buy time, to pacify, to make it sound like there was a plan when there clearly wasn't. And the more he talked, the more obvious it became Stefanski wasn't protecting his quarterback, he was protecting himself. Because once he admitted Gabriel was failing, he'd also be admitting something far worse, that he made the wrong call. That the man he handpicked, the one he staked his reputation on, wasn't the answer. And in the NFL, where perception can cost you your job faster than losing can, admitting that kind of mistake can be fatal. So instead, he shifted the narrative. He started praising the wrong things. "He's tough," Stefanski said. "He kept fighting." Think about that. After a loss that looked like an offensive funeral, the best compliment he could find was toughness. That's not a football analysis, that's a deflection, a soft focus filter on a disaster. When coaches run out of solutions, they start talking about effort. When they can't defend results, they defend character. It's emotional camouflage, and Stefanski wore it like armor. Every time he said battle, every time he said fight, it wasn't about Gabriel, it was about keeping the questions away from him. But here's the part that really set off alarm bells. His refusal to even acknowledge the possibility of a change. Asked directly about Sanders, Stefanski didn't just dodge, he dismissed. "We're focused on what's in front of us," he said, as if the entire season falling apart right behind him didn't exist. It was a cold, calculated way of saying, "Don't ask again." That wasn't leadership, that was ego.
And in that moment, you could see it. The pride, the stubbornness, the fear of being wrong. Stefanski wasn't trying to save the Browns, he was trying to save face. The longer he keeps Gabriel in, the more it becomes about him proving he was right. It's not about performance anymore, it's personal. Behind the podium, his words were polished, but underneath the calm exterior, you could sense the panic. Because deep down, he knows what everyone else already does, that this isn't sustainable. The locker room can feel it, the fan base can feel it, the organization can feel it. And if you listen closely, between every empty phrase and every vague promise, there's a quiet admission hiding in plain sight. He doesn't have a plan, he has a defense mechanism. But the truth doesn't stay buried forever, because the more Stefanski denies it, the louder the whispers about Shadur Sanders grow, and those whispers are about to turn into a roar. For weeks, fans have been asking the same question: why isn't Shadur Sanders playing? The answer, officially, doesn't exist, but unofficially, there's a storm brewing behind the walls of the Browns facility, one that no press conference can hide anymore. Because at this point, it's impossible to explain the situation through football logic alone. You don't bench a dynamic, high-upside quarterback while your offense is burning to the ground. Not unless something else is going on. And according to multiple reports and a growing number of whispers from around the league, something is going on. Rumors suggest that Stefanski and Sanders haven't exactly seen eye to eye since the moment the rookie arrived in Cleveland. The word personality clash gets thrown around a lot, but in this case, it might not be strong enough. Sanders came into the league with confidence, swagger, that same calm arrogance that makes great quarterbacks special and sometimes impossible to coach. He's the kind of player who walks into a locker room and instantly commands attention. That works when the coach embraces it, but when the coach feels threatened by it, that confidence starts looking like defiance.
Reports claim Stefanski didn't appreciate the attention that followed Shedeur from Colorado. The cameras, the interviews, the social media buzz. To him, it wasn't focus, it was distraction. He wanted quiet professionalism, Sanders brought a spotlight. And for a man like Stefanski, methodical, reserved, obsessed with control, that spotlight may have felt like chaos. So instead of leaning into the talent, he built a wall around it. A silent standoff began. One man trying to prove he's ready, the other determined to show that he isn't. Insiders have described the dynamic as icy. Sanders, by all accounts, has handled it with maturity, showing up early, staying late, putting in the work. But the energy between him and his coach, you can feel it through the screen. No eye contact on the sidelines, no acknowledgement after losses, just a tension so thick you could cut it with a cleat. And here's the thing, it's not just about football anymore. This feels personal. Because every week that Stefanski keeps Gabriel in, it's not just a football decision, it's a message. It's him saying, I'm in charge here. Not the fans, not the media, and definitely not a rookie with a famous last name. It's ego versus opportunity, control versus potential. A franchise caught between a coach who won't bend and a player the world is begging to see. And the deeper you look, the clearer it becomes. This isn't just a quarterback controversy, it's a power struggle. Stefanski isn't just coaching to win anymore, he's coaching to prove a point. He's drawing a line in the sand, and Shadur Sanders is standing on the other side of it. Now, to be clear, none of this is confirmed fact. The Browns haven't said a word publicly, and Stefanski has brushed off any mention of internal tension. But when you piece together the patterns, the quotes, the body language, the silence, it paints a picture that's hard to ignore. Because if this really is personal, if this really comes down to pride, then the Browns' biggest problem isn't under center. It's on the sideline. And what happens next could decide not just Shedur's future, but Stefanski's career. When the cameras shut off and the reporters left, the real chaos began. Not on social media, not on talk radio, but inside the Browns' own locker room. Because no amount of coach speak can hide the truth from the players. They live it,
They feel it. And right now, they're living through a season that feels like slow-motion sabotage. The defense, one of the best in the league, is dragging itself off the field every Sunday, knowing the offense will waste their effort. The receivers, running perfect routes for passes that never come. The offensive line, bleeding through their gloves, protecting a quarterback who doesn't push the ball past 5 yards. It's the kind of frustration that doesn't explode right away. It simmers, quietly, invisibly, until one day it breaks. Insiders have started to whisper that the locker room is divided. Reports claim that some of the younger offensive players, the ones who see Shedeur Sanders light up practice, are openly questioning why he's still on the bench. Meanwhile, veterans are tired of the same speeches from the podium. "We'll get it fixed." They've heard it too many times. It's lost all meaning. Even the defense, the unit keeping this team afloat, is reportedly running out of patience. Imagine giving up 10 points and still losing over and over again. That kind of futility doesn't just crush morale, it breeds resentment. The looks on the sidelines say it all. Players staring at the scoreboard, shaking their heads, wondering how much longer they're supposed to pretend everything is fine. And outside that locker room, the fan base has completely turned. Cleveland has always been loyal, maybe to a fault, but even loyalty has limits. The anger this time feels different. It's not just disappointment, it's betrayal. Fans aren't just questioning the direction of the team, they're questioning the competence of the man steering the ship. Every radio show in Ohio is on fire. Callers shouting for accountability, commentators demanding change. Every tweet, every clip, every meme, it's all aimed at one man, Kevin Stefanski. The calm, stoic, notebook-carrying coach has become the symbol of everything wrong with this team. And the noise isn't dying down, it's growing. Every post-game presser he does, every time he says the word battle, it feels like gasoline on a raging fire. Because fans don't want to hear about effort. They want the man who's clearly struggling off the field and the man with all the talent on it.
Meanwhile, Shadur Sanders has become more than a backup. He's a movement. His name is chanted in bars, plastered across fan signs, and trending online after every loss. He's not just a player anymore, he's the embodiment of hope. The hope that maybe, just maybe, there's still something worth saving in this season. But as the voices grow louder, Stefanski grows quieter. His stubborn silence is starting to sound like defiance. And that silence, that refusal to adapt, to even acknowledge what's obvious, is tearing the organization apart from the inside. Because the truth is, this kind of pressure doesn't just build, it cracks. It divides teams, poisons cultures, and exposes leaders who aren't built for chaos. And in Cleveland, chaos is the air you breathe. Right now, that locker room is holding together by a thread. The players are tired, the fans are furious, and the coach? He's still doubling down, still pretending that everything is under control. But every story like this has a breaking point, and Cleveland's is coming fast. Every collapsing empire has one moment, one decision where the leader could have turned back, where logic, humility, and self-awareness could have saved everything. For the Cleveland Browns, that moment has come and gone, and Kevin Stefanski didn't just miss it, he bulldozed right through it. Because now this isn't about football anymore, it's about ego. It's about a man so committed to proving he's right that he's willing to drag an entire franchise down with him. After every loss, you can see it written across the players' faces. Confusion, disbelief, and something worse, resignation. That's what happens when a coach stops listening, when he stops adapting, when his pride becomes the playbook. Stefanski's refusal to bench Dylan Gabriel has gone from questionable to catastrophic. It's not just bad coaching, it's an act of self-preservation disguised as loyalty. He's protecting his image, not his team. Because if Gabriel sits, it confirms what everyone already knows, that Stefanski backed the wrong man. And once that happens, the entire narrative collapses. So instead, he digs in deeper. He keeps Gabriel in the lineup, keeps repeating the same cliches, keeps pretending that the system isn't broken. It's like watching someone trapped in quicksand who refuses to stop struggling. Every move just drags him further down. And the irony? The longer he holds on to Gabriel, the faster he's losing everything else.
The locker room's trust, the fans' belief, the media's patience. Every snap, every failed drive, every lifeless post-game quote pushes him closer to the edge. Insiders have started calling it the pride spiral. It's what happens when a coach decides that saving face matters more than saving games. And in Cleveland, the spiral has become a free fall. Players can sense it. You can see it in how they talk after games. Short answers, no energy, no belief that change is coming. That's not leadership fatigue, that's emotional exhaustion. Because nothing kills a team faster than a leader who refuses to see reality. And fans? They've stopped hoping for wins. They're just waiting for the breaking point. That moment when the pressure, the noise, and the failure finally force something to snap. Because pride has an expiration date. You can ignore criticism for a while. You can drown out the media, deflect questions, pretend the fans don't understand the process. But eventually, the scoreboard exposes you. The Browns' offense isn't just ineffective, it's historically bad. Week after week, it's the same lifeless pattern. 3-and-outs, checkdowns, missed reads. And each time, Stefanski's solution is the same. Stay the course. But what happens when the course leads straight off a cliff? Every loss now carries the same bitter tone. Not just because they're losing, but because they don't have to. Everyone can see the solution standing right there on the sideline, wearing number 2, helmet in hand, waiting for his chance. And yet the coach acts like he doesn't exist. That's not strategy, it's ego masquerading as conviction. And this is where Stefanski's story turns tragic. Because he's not just fighting the media or the fans anymore, he's fighting reality itself. You can feel it every time he steps up to that podium. The tension in his voice, the defensiveness in his answers, the thinly veiled frustration. He's a man trying to hold together a version of events that no longer exists. A version where his decisions make sense. A version where Dylan Gabriel is developing. A version that the Browns are close. But that version is gone. All that's left is pride. And pride doesn't win football games. They end them. And for Kevin Stefanski, it's ending fast. Because when pride starts calling the plays, progress stops dead. And the Browns, they're running out of time. At this point, it's not even about football anymore. It's about something much bigger, a franchise at war with itself.
The Cleveland Browns are no longer fighting the Steelers, or the AFC, or even the scoreboard. They're fighting internally, against pride, denial, and a leadership structure that refuses to look in the mirror. This isn't just about bad play calling or poor execution. It's about an organization standing at a crossroads, too afraid to take the right path because it means admitting the wrong one. Kevin Stefanski was supposed to be the adult in the room, calm, composed, calculated, but somewhere along the way, composure turned into stubbornness. And now, that calm exterior looks less like confidence and more like detachment. The fire that used to drive this team has been smothered by coach speak and empty promises. Meanwhile, Shedeur Sanders stands on the sideline, silent, focused, waiting. Every week he doesn't play, his legend grows. Not because of what he's done, but because of what fans believe he could do. He's not just a quarterback anymore. He's a symbol. A symbol of everything Cleveland wants but can't have. Hope, change, a spark. And that's what makes this story so tragic. Because the war in Cleveland isn't between players and coaches or fans and media. It's between progress and pride. Between the future and the past. Between the version of this team that could be great and the version that refuses to evolve. Every franchise has a breaking point, and for the Browns, this is it. Every game, every press conference, every stubborn decision pushes them closer to a full-scale collapse, the kind that doesn't just ruin a season, but rewrites a legacy. Because at some point, you can't keep saying, "We'll get it fixed," when the whole system is built on cracks. You can't keep preaching accountability when no one is held accountable. You can't keep protecting pride and expect progress to survive.
And make no mistake, the city sees it, the fans feel it, the players know it. Something's coming. Whether it's a quarterback change, a locker room eruption, or a head coach forced to finally face the truth, the Browns are on the brink of something they can't ignore anymore. So as this season spirals and the noise turns deafening, one question remains. Will Kevin Stefanski finally swallow his pride and make the move that could save his team? Or will he keep doubling down until the whole thing collapses around him? Because right now, the battle for Cleveland isn't being fought on the field. It's being fought in the meeting rooms, the press conferences, and the coach's own mind. And if something doesn't change soon, the Browns won't just lose games, they'll lose faith. They'll lose fans, and they'll lose themselves. The real war in Cleveland has already begun. And this time, there may not be a winner.